Kayla, and welcome back to my channel. It has been a while since I last posted. Life kind of just got a little hectic. I kind of stopped feeling motivated to film and make videos for a little bit, so I didn't, because I do this for fun. So if I don't feel like doing it, I don't do that. Then I was also like doing some life things. I had to like switch my driver's license over because I changed my like province of residency, and so like doing like that kind of like was bringing me stress because I was like, oh god, official stuff, I don't like dealing with it. And then I got sick. This whole past week I've been sick. First time I've had a cold at all since October 2019. I guess it was time, but like my wonderful 3.5-year streak of health is over. So that happened, but now I'm feeling better. And I washed my hair today, so seemed like as good as the time as any to finally film my May reading wrap up. Is it in fact basically the end of June at this point? Yes, but you know what? It's better late than never, and we're just jumping on back into making videos because I felt like making one today. Here we are. Let's talk about the books I read in May. It really wasn't too big of a reading month for me. Ever since I started my full-time job, my reading's gone down, and honestly, like, I'm in a bit of a reading slump. I keep like picking books that I think I'm gonna be like really excited about and not gonna want to put down, and they're like not. They're like all just like okay, and it's really not helping me to get out of a reading slump. It's been a little rough. I read 4 books in May. I read some pretty long books, which is why there's 4. Also, I'm pretty sure I finished the 4th one like technically like on the first day of June, but like I'm just counting it as a May read because I read like basically all of it in May, and this is my reading stats, so I can do what I want, really. So there we go. I did read 4 books in the month of May. 3 of these were loaned through Libby, so I read them through my iPad, and one of them was a book that I owned. All of them were brand new reads for me. I haven't had any rereads in them. I don't think that's grammatically correct. I didn't have any rereads in the month of May. I ended up reading 1,910 pages in total in the month of May, which had my book average at 478 pages, so some pretty long books. And I averaged about 62 pages a day. Also, my average rating for the month of May was a 3.75, which is not my best because, as we know, I love to give a book a 4-star. So if we're, you know, at a 3.75, it wasn't really an amazing month, but let's talk about that. That was just me kind of, you know, listing off all of those stats to get them out of the way, just because I kind of like to hear them, but I also understand that they're probably boring, so they're done now. Let's move on. Like I said, it's now basically the end of June, so let's see how much much of this I remember. But I do also have, I think almost all of these books are in my weekly reading vlogs from May. I do have 1 or 2 weeks of filming that I didn't actually edit or post yet, so that hasn't come up yet, so I forget exactly at what point of my reading, like my actual posted reading vlogs end, but some of the month at least is in more detail over there, and I'll link those for you down below in the card. You know how it is. The first book I read in the month of May was The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner, and I kind of picked this up on a whim. Like, I just like placed a Libby loan for it. I think what happened is I saw the London Seance Society, which is her new book, and then I went on her Goodreads, saw that she had written The Lost Apothecary first, and thought, oh, maybe I should read that first because it's her first book, and I have this thing where I like reading things in order even if they're not series. It's just a thing I like to do. And so I just like went on and like put a hold on it on Libby, and then it like came in at the beginning of the month, and I went, I guess I'll read this next. And it was just like okay. I gave it a 3.5 stars. It had a dual timeline in it, so there were like 2 storylines. One was historical, one was present day, and the present day one really, to me, like I feel like I could have just not been there for the most part, and I might have honestly enjoyed it more if it was just the historical timeline, because I found that more interesting, and jumping back and forth really like took you out of the historical portion, and it felt like all that the present timeline was doing was feeding more into the historical timeline. So there was, instead of having like 2 timelines, you had one timeline and then the secondary timeline that basically just gave you more info and like a different way to learn info about the historical one, and it just like wasn't something that was working for me super well. The end of it was pretty bingeable. The last like third, I want to say, I did read pretty quickly, and I did like even the present day timeline. I liked it. Kind of got some drama at the end and I enjoyed it, which is why I gave it a 3.5 stars and not a 3, though I probably should have given it a 3, but I just like being nice, you know? And so if I have any little bit of feeling like giving that extra little half a star, I do, because, you know, I just rate things really highly because I feel bad otherwise. So that was The Lost Apothecary. It was fine. It was fine. You know, I think I will read The London Singing Society. I'm not like jumping to read it, but I think I will because I did like Sarah Penner's writing. I did like her characters. I just didn't like the dual timeline thing, but also it was like her first book, so, you know, I'll give some grace for that, and I'll give it another go, you know? So after that, I read Bloodmarked, which is the second book in the Legendborn cycle by Tracy Deonn, and I gave this 3 stars, and I was really considering giving it a 2.5, which would be probably like the lowest rating I think I might have ever given a book, but I did give it a 3 because it was so goddamn long and I liked the characters, but oh my god, nothing in this book made sense. I felt like there was constantly plot happening and none of it was actual plot. Like, it was all fluff plot. Like, you'd spend so long doing like something that felt absolutely pointless, and then you would have like this conflict, and then like it would be like resolved so quickly, and then there would be like no consequences from this conflict that like carried forward into the plot. And I was like, what is going on? And then the ending of this book was literally telling, not showing, and I was so mad. I was like, what is happening? I don't like this. It was like I didn't like the way it was told. Like, I kind of liked how the ending was. I just didn't like the way Tracy Deonn did the ending. It just didn't really work for me, and I wish that it was done differently because it was kind of hard to follow for me personally. Maybe it's just like a language thing where it's not, you know, like translating well into my brain to like build the story together to make it make sense. But yeah, like there was so much in this that could have just been cut out. It was like 600 pages or something. It was so long and it was so unnecessary. Like, half of it didn't need to be there. I swear half of it didn't need to be there. And also, like, I really liked the dynamic of like the group of like kind of like 4 characters you end up following for most of it. But also Bree, the main character, is just like really annoying sometimes, and I didn't like her. So then also that was kind of like meh, and it was just like, yeah, it was fine. If there's another book, which I'm pretty sure there's going to be another book in this series, like I'm gonna read it. I don't know, it's like I wanted Bloodmarked to be like Legendborn, where it's like it was really like so beyond the realm of possibility. Like, it was like just so crazy. Like, the plot was just like never ending, throwing it at you, and like it was so confusing and convoluted that I like was having a good time. And the second book, I was expecting that kind of same feeling, and I didn't really get it from that, which made it kind of like a frustrating thing to read when you're expecting to be like a lot of fast moving plot, and instead you're getting like lots and lots of pages that feel absolutely pointless and you don't know what you're getting out of it. And then also like the magic seemed to have like switched for me. The first book, it felt very much like a strict magic system where there's like a lot of rules and reasonings behind how things work, and it was really complex, and it's why I spent like so much of the first book having no idea what was going on. But now that like in the second book, it seems like it's now just like a soft magic system, and like anything can happen because it's magic, and it made me mad. Are you okay? So yeah, Bloodmarked just really wasn't a great book for me, but I guess because I'm hopeful and optimistic, I will be reading whatever the third book is whenever it comes out at some point, because I do want to know where the story goes. The third book that I read in the month of May was another chunky YA fantasy novel, and maybe this is partially why I got into a reading slump. This is probably not the best book to read after Bloodmarked, but it was Eldest by Paolini. This is like a 700-page book. This took me forever to read in May. And this is the second book in the Inheritance cycle. And I gave this one 4 stars. I love this one so much more than the first book. They added some additional perspectives other than just Aragon's like in the first book. And I felt that really like benefited the storytelling because you're like able to follow these different perspectives in different parts of the fantasy world, and you know, like they're kind of connected, but they're kind of like they're their individual stories. So when there was a lull in one story, there was some action in another perspective, and it like balanced it out and it made it easier to keep reading instead of like in the first book where there was a lot of kind of like lulls of just like traveling content. This felt a bit more edited. I felt like the vocabulary was better picked. I felt like the characters were more complex, and getting to learn more about the world in general was interesting and enjoyable. I'm happy I read this book, and I definitely will be continuing on the series. I have Brisinger on my bookshelves. I do own the 3rd book. I do not own the 4th book, Inheritance, and of course there's the 5th book coming out, Murtagh, I think this fall. So I don't really know what I'll be doing there, but I will be definitely at least reading the 3rd book, I think probably like next month, maybe in July. We'll see. I'll do like a summer TBR video, I think, next to kind of like decide a little bit what I'm gonna read for July and August, mainly because like June is over at this point, and we'll see. And I think Brisinger will definitely be on that list because I do really want to get caught up in this series. And as you know, my goal for 2023 in general is to get my currently reading series list down. So I am trying to read a lot of series, especially ones that I already own on my shelves. So the last book that I read in the month of May is the 4th book that I read, because I only read 4 books this month, but they were big books. I didn't think this one was going to be this long, but then I started it and it was actually quite lengthy for being a rom-com, and that was Crazy Stupid Bromance, which is the 3rd book in the Bromance book club by Lyssa K. Adams, and I absolutely love this one. This was my favorite one in the series so far. I gave it a 4.5 stars. I was so happy with it. The like additional plot to accompany the romance plot that seems to be common in this series, and it's why I like this series, was pretty strong for me, and I enjoyed it. It made sense. The character motivations made sense. The 3rd act conflict was not a miscommunication thing that then was like resolved too quickly, so like I was happy with that because I was really worried. I was worried that the 3rd act conflict was going to make me hate it, but I didn't, and that was so lovely for me, and that's why I got a 4.5 stars. It was just like a good book. I had a great time. And now, okay, the ending like gave a hint of what the next book is going to be about, like who it's going to be about, and I'm really excited because it's a character that I really enjoy. One of my favorite parts about this series is the more you read it, the more it has these kind of like ongoing jokes and quirks. Romance Book Club itself, like the group of guys, their dynamics are always like really funny. Like I've actually chuckled like out loud multiple times while reading this 3rd book because they were just like these like absurd funny, like they're not like real life kind of interactions, but the way they're written is just like, you know, it's like it's really rom-com-y, and that's what I like in romance novels. I really like the dynamic, you know, like the more you read the series, the more you learn about all the characters, so you keep being more invested in each book. It was just good. It was good. This is probably my favorite romance series. I don't have that much experience with romance, but like, hello, I'm so glad I continued on with this series, because remember, the first book I really was not a huge fan of, but I liked the concept and I kept reading it. I'm so glad I did, because this 3rd book was like a 4.5, you know, like it's pretty close to being for almost. It was like not a 5-star, but like it was so close. It was so close to being a 5-star. So, you know, like enjoyable. And that was what I read in May. It was an okay month, a lot of big books that probably didn't help to get me where I am right now in my state of reading, where I'm not reading that much, but you know what? I can't complain too much. I like basically every book that I read. I just don't love every book that I read, and I'm happy I can say that because I feel like that's not the case for most people. So there we go. That was everything I read in the month of May. If you like this video, make sure you give it a like. Comment down below what your thoughts are on any of these books you read. Are you also in a reading slump? Let me know how to get out of a reading slump because your girl needs help right now. And if you happen to like me, consider subscribing. I'd be happy to have you. Come back, see some more. I, took a little bit of break and it was nice, and now I'm thinking I'll get back into it. So here we are. And with that, I hope you're having a wonderful day today. Bye-bye.